Hello everyone, sorry for running late. Well, now that I'm here, today I'm going to be doing an introduction towards digital rights management systems, which is a solution towards intellectual property theft. Now, in order to dive deeper into this topic, I'm going to be needing the help of my 4 friends. First, Xavier is going to be explaining the basics of DRM systems and how they actually affect the privacy of our intellectual property.
Hello everyone, I'm Xavier. Today I am here to explain to you guys the basics of what a DRM system even is and what does it mean when it comes to the privacy of intellectual property. Intellectual property is any product that you own and have the rights to. As defined by Cohen-Julie E., an expert in production of applications, digital rights management systems are a new form of systems that control the privacy of copyright material. This means that DRM systems are used as a forum to protect intellectual property, which is copyright material, from getting pirated or copied by other people. DRM systems can be defined through 2 concentric levels of control. Level 1 is the user, so the person that has access to intellectual property but is limited to copying it or pirating it. And level 2, the owner of the intellectual property that receives feedback on who accesses their property. Here's an example to make this easier to understand. On the left, we see someone who wants to copy the material but is not able to because of DRM systems. And on the right, we see the owner of this system who is able to see when and how somebody's accessing their material. Well, that was the end of my journey of explaining the basics of DRM systems. Now on to my friend to explain how DRM systems are used to create new systems to protect intellectual property.
Hello everyone, my name's Moon, and we're going to jump straight into it. Many believe that multimedia content is just a place to receive information and share it in a safe way. But this is not entirely true, as multimedia content can actually be a dangerous place where you risk your intellectual property being stolen and wrong information to be spread. This can damage your digital footprint. Now, a proposed solution to this problem is using a lightweight user demand DRM system. This is a system that uses DRM technology in order to create authorization. That means that the producer grants access to the consumer for a limited time for them to view their intellectual property and eventually does not have access to that anymore. Now I'm going to dive deeper onto how this system works. There are 2 agents in the system, DRM host and the client. The host is the producing side, the one who holds the key or the access to their intellectual property and controls the cryptography, while the DRM client is one who gains access from the key to that intellectual property for a limited time. Now, let's explain what the DRM host has to do in order for this DRM solution to work. There's 3 phases. The initialization phase is where the producer has to collect all their materials, like their encryption codes, to make it possible. Then comes the encryption, which is where all the material is encrypted through codes and crypto systems. Then is the release, where that final encryption and that final product is released to the consumer for limited access. Well, thank you for listening to one of the many DRM systems out there. Now to my friend William to explain another.
Oh, is it my turn already? Hello everyone, my name's William, and today I'm going to be talking about another DRM system used to protect your intellectual property. This one using watermarking with permutation codes. To begin, I'm going to focus on watermarks and trademarks. Watermarks from within the realm of trademarks. And everyone has seen that little watermark on the corner or on a page that they want to use. This is there to make sure that no one else can steal that property because the brand will always be visible. But as we can see, this little thing takes up a lot of space and can ruin the product you want to release. So with this solution, permutation codes would allow for watermarks to not be visible but be embedded through coding. Now to the DRM solution. With the technology of DRM systems, watermark is embedded into the product that the producer wants to distribute. This acts as a fingerprint or a signature that the producer leaves on their material, even though if it's not visible for the consumer. This fingerprint is embedded through decoding and encoding new cryptography. In simpler terms, an image is decoded, scrambled around, and then encoded again. What is created through this process is a sort of user ID, which is unique to each product, meaning that if the product is found anywhere else, it is trackable back to its owner because that user ID is related to the owner of that copyrighted material. Okay, now that we have an understanding on how watermarking systems work and how through decoding and encoding you can watermark a product without it being physically visible, we're going to see a prime example of it working in real life. And here it is. After all those steps, this is the final result. In row A, we can see the original image. And then in row B, we see how the scrambled code is put into work. And then in row C, we see the final product, which is the fingerprinted or the watermarked material. We can't physically see the watermark, but we know it's there through the decoding process, which was explained earlier. That means that this is trackable back to its owner and can be found if copied or pirated.
Aw, looks like William fell asleep. After all that hard work, William finished his presentation, which he was super excited to show you guys. Now, onto our last friend, Mary, which will be explaining one final DRM solution system.
Hello everyone, my name is Mary, and I'm really happy to be presenting the final DRM system. This system or proposed solution is called the Decentralized Architectural Model, or the DEPRIM, a Decentralized Privacy Rights Management, an extension of a DRM system. First, I'm going to begin by exploring what this model does and who it actually affects. Unlike the other models, this model does not affect the customer but only affects the owner of the intellectual property. It protects the material and gives it a safe place for it to be stored. This system would be used in websites and applications that want to protect the information of its users. So think Instagram, Twitter, or even TikTok. Okay, now that we know who the system protects, we're going to see how it protects them. Websites and applications use the system to protect its users. The intellectual property of the users are stored in pods, which are personal online data stores, or, as called in this solution, personal data vaults. But what are these personal data vaults and how are they used? In order to understand how the data vault works, we need to understand all the components of it. First comes the data producer, the ones who make the data, which is the people that are using the application, and the data consumer, the application itself. Now comes the personal data vault. As mentioned, this is a place where the data producers store their data. The data producers are the only ones that can access this data whenever they want and wherever they want. This means that the data consumer cannot access this data. Now that the applications and websites have provided a safe place for its users to store their data, what happens when the data consumer wants to access that personal data? As we can see from this image, on the left we have the data consumer. They want to access the personal data of the data producer. When the data producer accepts to give up their personal data to the data consumer, they have to give them a copy of that data. That data copy is made through the data capsule repository. Now that that copy has been made, the data consumer receives a copy through a DRM engine. This DRM engine gives the copy to the data consumer. Once that data consumer has a copy, they're giving a license through the DRM engine. This license acts as a way for that personal data to only be accessible to the data consumer that the data producer gave it to. That means that no one else can view this copy except the data consumer that the data producer accepted to view it. Okay, now that we understand all the components, I'm going to show you guys the actual model made by the research. And here it is. We can see all the components put into one place and how it will be used for the data producer and the data consumer. I had so much fun presenting the last DRM solution. Thank you for listening.
Yay, we finished! Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video was useful to understand DRM systems and how they help with intellectual property theft. We also want to give a really big thank you to all the sources that helped us put this video together.